Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the second webinar in our cat behavior series, Behavioral Enrichment for Your Cat. My name is Brianna, and I am the Associate Director of Community Engagement and Events here at Alley Cat Allies. And for this afternoon, I will also be your moderator. And so today's session will be presented by Kelly Boland of Animal Alliances, LLC. And I'll introduce you to Kelly here in a moment. But before I do, there are just a few housekeeping things I want to go over with you. So as I mentioned, this is the second webinar in our series. And we are always trying to grow and improve not just this webinar series, but all of our webinars. And so after today's webinar, you're going to receive a follow-up email. And in that email will be a link to a brief survey. I encourage everyone to please take a moment and just let us know what you thought. Is there something we could do to make your experience better? Are there questions that maybe we haven't answered? Is there something you definitely want to see in a webinar in the future? Just let us know. As we do move through this webinar, please be ready to take some notes. We have a lot of information that we're going to share with you. If we do move too fast or you feel like you've missed something, please don't panic. We are recording today's session. I'll say it again. This session is being recorded. And the link to that recording will be shared with you again in that follow-up email. And all of our webinars are also available to view anytime at alleycat.org/webinar. So speaking of that landing page, I want to point out that you can also register for the last webinar in the cat behavior series, which will air on July 27th. And that will be focused on common behavior problems in cats. And so I know this is a big one for many of you, the different behavioral quirks that we see in the cats in our lives. And so please do go to our website and register for that webinar. And while you're there, you can check out some of the other webinars we've done. Again, all of our webinars are recorded, and those sessions are available for you to download and stream at your convenience, absolutely free. Some of our sessions include the first webinar in this series, Understanding Your Feline Friend. We also have a cat advocacy series, which is a two-part webinar series. The first webinar focuses on ordinance language and walks you through the process of a model ordinance that can help cats. And the second part of that series helps you better understand how to work effectively with your government and elected officials to save even more cats' lives. And so if you are new to the topic of outdoor cats and things like trap, neuter, return, we do have a TNR, or trap, neuter, return, basics webinar for you, and that is our Helping Cats in Your Community webinar. And so if you or someone you know is a Spanish language speaker, we have that same TNR basics information in a Spanish language webinar, Ayudando a los gatos en tu comunidad. And so just check out alleycat.org/webinar to get all the information you need to continue helping cats. So back to this webinar, the reason you're all here today, we will have 60 minutes today to go through the subjects that we have to cover. And at the end of the presentation, we will have some time, hopefully, for some questions and answers. So go ahead and you can use your GoToWebinar toolbar to answer or to submit a question to me. Just like you see on your screen, I will be reading through those during the presentation and queuing them up for the very end. So if you don't hear from me right away, please don't panic. Just know that I am receiving those questions, and I'll be saving them for Kelly at the end of today's presentation. So while I have you all, I do want to just briefly mention our Feral Friends Network. This network is comprised of people in places worldwide who are helping cats in their community. Our Feral Friends Network members are mentors and guides offering advice and support to anyone that is looking to help cats. And so if you're new to trap, neuter, return, or outdoor cat care, and you'd like to connect with somebody who is already active in the community, this is a great tool to do that. I recommend reaching out, offering maybe to volunteer, or just trying to learn some more. However, if you are experienced in outdoor cat care and feel like you can serve as a resource for people in your community, we would love to have you join. This is a resource that is always growing, and we would encourage anyone out there to go ahead and join us. And so you can learn more at alleycat.org/feralfriends. So just one more thing I want to mention. It is officially summer, And that means that we are in the throes of kitten season, full swing, at least here in the DC area where Alley Cat Allies is based. I know some of you are in warmer climates and kitten season doesn't really end, but for many of us, we're seeing an increase in kittens. And so we have our model program, which is called Wait Until 8, which is a resource for shelters to implement to really empower the community members themselves to step up and help care for neonatal kittens. And so this is a resource for people to have at their disposal. So if a neonatal kitten comes into a shelter, staff can in turn hand over a kitten care kit, which is a carrier stuffed with everything a community member might need to foster a kitten who is younger than 8 weeks of age, therefore keeping that kitten out of the shelter system and in the arms of a loving foster that can care for them until they're old enough to be spayed or neutered and then adopted. So this is an excellent resource for anyone looking to help shelters and help get through kitten season. All right, so like I said, back to the reason you are actually here today. This is the second webinar focused on enrichment. And so we're going to start talking about what is enrichment, what does that even mean, and why is it important for my cat? And then we're going to go through the different types of enrichment and thinking about the things that we can try to help the cats in our own lives. And so here to talk about that with you is Kelly Bolin. Kelly is a certified animal behavior consultant with a master's degree in animal behavior who has worked in the field of companion animal behavior for over 17 years. Kelly is the owner and executive director of Animal Alliances, LLC, an animal behavior consulting business. Kelly consults with private pet owners experiencing behavior problems with their pets and with animal shelters across the country. Kelly also provides educational seminars to veterinarians, animal shelters, and the pet-owning public. So without further ado, I want to just say how grateful Alley Cat Allies is to have Kelly here with us, presenting this cat behavior series, and here with us today for the second webinar. We're so excited to learn more on the subject of enrichment. So thank you for being here today, Kelly.
Excellent. Thanks for having me today, Brianna, and thanks for that great introduction. Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for tuning in to learn about how to enrich the life of your cat. It's my pleasure to be here today. I want to start out by thanking Alley Cat Allies for putting on this webinar series and for all the great work that they do to help cats. They're a wonderful organization, and I absolutely love working with them. So it's great to be here, and I hope that you learn a lot from this webinar today. I hope that it encourages you to turn around once you turn off the computer and do some fun stuff with your cats. Okay, next. Okay, so I'm going to start the webinar but with a definition of what enrichment is. And this is my definition that I've come up with to try to, get you to understand what I'm talking about when I say enrichment. So, providing an interesting, challenging, stimulating environment that encourages your cat to explore, think, learn, engage, and be well both mentally and physically. So it's just making sure that there's all kinds of things in their life that stimulates them in ways that keeps them healthy. Next. Okay, when a cat doesn't get the mental and physical stimulation that they need, they can become depressed and bored, which in turn can lead to behaviors like destruction, over-grooming, overeating, and even inter-cat aggression if there are multiple cats in the house. So when I consult with cat owners who are experiencing problematic behaviors with their cats, enrichment is always part of the program I set up with them to resolve the issue. Regardless of what the issue is, enrichment is always going to be a piece of that. So next month when I talk about behavior problems in your pet's cat, enrichment is always going to be part of that. So what you learn today will help you along with the information I give you next month. So enrichment can improve your cat's mood, it can improve their behavior, and in turn it can improve their health. And therefore it's improving their overall quality of life. And that's really the key. We want to make sure that our cats have a good quality of life. Don't we all want a good quality of life? Next. So I just tell you a little bit about my history. My undergraduate degree is in wildlife biology, and I spent 7 years working in the zoo field prior to going back to graduate school where I studied animal behavior. I left the zoo field because it was too emotionally difficult for me to see these amazing animals in captivity. But during my zoo career, enrichment was my thing. I started in my own department, which was the primate department, and I developed an enrichment program to improve their quality of life. And the zoo management was so impressed with my work with the primates that they made me the enrichment coordinator for the whole zoo. So I worked with the keepers in the other departments to help enrich the lives of the animals that they took care of. So I've worked with many, many different species of animals, and my goal is always to improve their well-being through enrichment. Next. And then following graduate school, where I studied animal behavior, I started working with animal shelters. And I've been consulting with animal shelters for the past 17 years to educate staff and volunteers about how to better improve the behavioral health of the animals that are housed in their shelter. And here, too, I stress enrichment. Keeping the animals behaviorally healthy during their short stay in the shelter is vitally important to their mental and physical well-being. Next. So enrichment is important for zoo animals. These are wild animals kept in captivity, and so we got to make sure we provide them with everything they need to be mentally and physically stimulated. It's very important for shelter animals that are companion animals meant to live in a home, not in a cage. And so it's really important we provide enrichment for those animals, but it's also really important for house pets. People often don't realize that their pet cats are bored and that they need more stimulation. And it doesn't really matter how great you think your cat's life is, they can always benefit from a more enriched life. And that's what I want to share with you today. Some ideas to help stimulate your cats in your home to make them more healthy. Next. So I start my discussion about enrichment talking about environmental enrichment. And this is where we modify the environment in some way to provide the cats with things that they need to be healthy and happy. And in this case, of course, the environment is your home. And so we're going to talk about some of the things that you can do in your home to help enrich the lives of your cat or cats. Next. Okay, so now the first thing I want to talk about is what cats spend the most time doing. And of course, they spend most of their time sleeping. The average cat spends about 15 to 18 hours a day sleeping. And when they're asleep, cats like to be comfortable. I'd like to introduce you to two of my cats. This is Mowgli on the left and Buddy on the right. And my cats, of course, love to be comfortable, as do all cats. Now, cats are what we call a crepuscular species, which means that they're most active at dawn and dusk. But the rest of the time, it's usually nap time. Next. So the first way to enrich your cat's environment is to provide them with some comfy beds, some comfy places to sleep. And there's lots of different kinds of beds out there for cats, but you will notice in these pictures, cats really like to feel snug in their bed. They love the feeling of their body touching the sides of the bed. So their favorite beds are usually the ones that they can curl up in, the ones that are just slightly bigger than themselves. And so providing your cats with these kinds of beds around the environment is a great way to provide some environmental enrichment. Next. That said, of course, sometimes they do like to stretch out. This is Old Man Mowgli stretching out. Next. Now, arboreal. We want to talk a little bit about cats nature. Now, cats are the descendants of the semi-arboreal African wildcat. And what arboreal means is living in the trees. So the semi-arboreal African wildcat, which are the ancestors of our house cats, live both on the ground but also in the trees. They're very comfortable up in the trees. And they like to be up high for a couple of reasons. Of course, they are safer when they're up high, but they can also survey their environment better when they're up high. Next. And the domestic cat is no different. You'll notice that cats, if they're given a choice, really do like to be up high. They feel safer there, and they also can survey their environment. Now, an interesting thing about cats, if you didn't tune into the first webinar, I talked about the fact that cats are a predator, but they're also a prey species. And as a prey species, they feel much safer when they're up high and can survey their environment. Next. So as a form of environmental enrichment in your home, you can provide perches for your cats, places for them to be able to get up high and feel safe. And I'm introducing you here to my other two cats. This is Sammy and Millie, and two of their cat beds that allow them perches. And you'll see on the right in the background my little herd of goats, who you will see again in another slide. But the cats, providing them with perches, someplace where they can rest and feel safe and be up high, is a great form of environmental enrichment. And you can certainly buy these cat trees. You can also make them if you're handy. But that's a great way to give cat the ability to do what comes naturally. Next. Alternatively, or in addition, you can put up cat shelves. Now, if you don't put up special cat shelves, we know what cats do. One of their favorite pastimes when they're awake is to knock things off of shelves. And so your cat might knock something off a top shelf and then lay down. And so why not give them their own shelf where they can kind of hang out? And so putting in some cat shelves might be an interesting way to provide some environmental enrichment. Next. Window seats are also great, and there's a lot of different kinds of window seats on the market. You can buy them pre-made, you can make them, you can put a little shelf up yourself. But window seats provide a lot for the cats. Not only are they up high, they can be very comfy, but also, as I'm going to talk about later, it's going to give them a view of the outdoor world. So window seats is another form of environmental enrichment. Next. So the vertical highway, I wanted to show you this slide. This is actually a friend of mine's house. They have 7 cats. They're very cat-savvy people. And when they bought their new house, they had someone come in and put in a vertical highway. And you can see the big, darker wooden beam. And below that is kind of a lighter wood, and that's the vertical highway. And you can see a kitty sitting right in there. And so their cats can climb up a bunch of different avenues and get up into their vertical highway and move around the house. They have 3 dogs in the house that are perfectly fine with the cats, but we know the cats feel safer and love to move around up high. So this is a great form of environmental enrichment, maybe a little more extreme than some of you would do, but certainly a great form of environmental enrichment for their 7 cats. Next. And this is just the same house. I wanted to show you a little different perspective. They have these cat shelves all over that they can, and stepways that they can get up into their vertical highway. So really, again, very nice enrichment for their cats. Next. But you don't have to do something as fancy as that. I mean, if you look at the picture here on the left or on the right, all you see is a plank of wood going from shelf to shelf. And on the left, you see someone got real, very creative with some wooden crates and formed this really fun little vertical highway. Cats love to travel this way. And when you have multiple cats in the house, it's a great way to give them extra space because they just love to move around this way and be up high. Next. Cats also like to hide. Now, cats hide when they're feeling nervous and afraid, but they also like to hide just because they like to hide. This is just their nature. Next. And so anywhere can be a good hiding place for a cat. And so, you know, I'm sure many of you, if not all of you, have cats, and you oftentimes will find them in the strangest places hiding. They like to find a place where they feel that they are hiding and safe. And so it can be anywhere. It can be a bag you left open, a drawer you left open. And if you can look at that picture on the bottom right, you see a kitty in the little Deer Park water, you know, crate thing. It's a really pretty funny hiding place for your cat. Next. And sometimes cats think they're hiding, but maybe not so much. Just a funny little slide. Next. So you want to make sure that you provide places for your cats to hide. Now, certainly they're going to find their own hiding spaces, but you can also go the extra mile and provide them with a place to hide. And I'm not necessarily talking about buying something like this structure where they can hide, although that's wonderful. But I want to show you some of the places where my kitties hide and the accommodations I've made in their environment for them. Next. This is my old man, Buddy, and his hiding place. So Buddy decided that he wanted to hide in the closet on the bottom shelf. And so when he chose that hiding place, I just decided to make it comfy for him. So rather than discouraging him from being there, I made it his hiding place and put a little comfy bed in there. And so he feels safe and secure in his Buddy hiding place. Next. And this is my cat, Millie. And Millie's a little bit of a fearful cat, and so she likes to be hidden most of the day. She'll come out at night. And this is not a chair we sit in, but this is Millie's chair, and the blanket over it provides her with a really nice hiding place. Next. And this is my cat, Toby, and Toby likes to get underneath blankets. So on his little couch, he has this blanket he burrows under, and he can go under there whenever he feels like he needs to hide. So you can see that it was nothing fancy. The cats basically told me what kind of hiding place they wanted, and what I did was accommodate the environment so they could have that hiding place. Next. But you can even get even more simple and just lay some cardboard boxes around. I'm sure all of you know if you bring a cardboard box into your house, you get a delivery or whatever, next thing you know, your kitty's going to be in that box. So cats just really love to be hiding, and that's why they like to get inside boxes. And they also, again, like to be snug like a bug in a rug. And so you'll see them squeezing themselves into very small boxes. And you think, oh my God, how is that comfortable? But they do it, and so that is what they prefer. So just providing them with boxes laying around is also a great way to give them that hiding spot. Next. Of course, paper bags can do the same. So, you know, again, you don't have to spend any money or be even really overly creative when you're providing your cat with a place to hang out and hide and feel safe. You can just put a paper bag on the floor. I'm just gonna warn you, if you look at the top left-hand picture with the black kitty in the bag, I just want to say one little comment about bags with handles. Sometimes the cat will come out of the bag and get caught in the handle, and then next thing you know, they're running around the house with a bag chasing them. So I do recommend you take the handles off if the bag has a handle. Next. They make these little cat tunnels, and these cat tunnels are really fun. Cats like to play in them, but they also, again, are wonderful little hiding places, so it serves a couple of different purposes. Next. Okay, so that is in working on some environmental enrichment in your home, things you can provide to your cat so that they can do what cats do. But another form of enrichment that I think is very, very important is giving them some outdoor time. Next. Outdoor time to get some fresh air, to get some vitamin D from the sunshine. It's really important, just like if you can imagine us spending our whole life in our house and never being able to go outside and get fresh air and sunshine on our face. It's just as important to our kitties. Next. We want them to be able to walk around. We want them to be able to roll around. It's just a really nice form of enrichment for our cats. But of course, we also have to worry about our cat's safety. So there's ways we can do this in a safe way, and I'm going to show you how I've done it. Next. Oh, forgot a slide. Okay, so when they're outside, of course, besides walking around and rolling around, cats are very curious, as you know, curious by nature. They also have an amazing sense of smell, which I'll talk about in a minute. And so when you give them outside time, there's lots of really interesting things for them to sniff and investigate. Next. So this is how one way that you can do it safely. So this is what I did, and this is my yard, and I put up what they call the perfect cat fence. And so this is a company that provides this kind of cat fencing, and just cordoned off a little area of my yard, and this becomes the cat fence. And the right-hand side, if you have an existing fence, you can put up just little brackets and put up overhanging type of meshing so that the cat can't climb up the fence and get out. But this provides the cat with a nice, safe place to be outside so that they can do all their wonderful cat things. Next. And here's my kitties, a couple of my kitties. This is Toby and Buddy, and they're out in their cat yard enjoying the fresh air, rolling in the garden, rolling in the grass. And so it just is, I don't have to worry about them. They have a cat door. They can go in and out, and they get all the wonderful benefits of being outside without the fear of being hit by a car or eaten by a coyote or a fox or whatever's around that might want to have a kitty for dinner. Next. So again, here's my kitties. This is Toby on the left greeting my goat Maggie, and Buddy on the right taking a look at Molly. And so behind their little cat fence, they get to kind of visit with the goats. So my cats get extra enrichment because they have goat friends. Next. There's lots of other ways you can do this, though, besides purchasing and putting in the perfect cat fence. Lots of people have made homemade little areas for their cats to go out in, and you just need a little bit of wood and a little bit of chicken wire or other kind of meshing, but it really is nice to provide your cat with an opportunity to be outside. Next. And there's lots of different options. So there's all kinds of options on the market that you can purchase to give your cat a little bit of outdoor time. And of course, when they're in these sorts of things, you probably want to make sure you're supervising them a little bit and make sure that everything is okay and no other critters come and try to get them in this little tube. But certainly it's a great way to give a cat some outdoor time if you don't have the ability or resources to be able to build a big area for them. Next. You can desensitize your cat to wearing a harness and a leash and take them for walks. Lots of cats have learned to walk on a leash, and walking on a leash is, again, a great way to give your cat that outdoor time safely. And so you don't have to leave your yard. Just walking around the yard is good enough for your cat. There's a lot of interesting things out there in the yard. And so desensitizing your cat to wearing a harness doesn't take a lot of time. You basically just put it on, and while they're eating, while they're getting a little dish of tuna fish, while you're playing with them, and their body desensitizes to the feel of the harness, and then you could just start taking them out for a walk. It's a really nice thing to do. Next. Here's another little silly option, but sometimes they make these little strollers for animals, believe it or not, and older cats who can't really get out or for whatever reason can't walk on a leash, nice little kitty stroller can do the trick. Next. Okay, the next subject I want to talk about is using enrichment to stimulate species-typical behavior. Okay, so cats are cats, and they do cat things, and our enrichment should stimulate the things that cats do naturally. Next. So we know that cats naturally scratch on things. Now they do this for several reasons. First, they do it to remove the dead nail sheaths on their nails. They also scratch to mark their territory because they leave both visual marks with their nails and also olfactory marks with the substance that comes out of the scent glands in their pads. They also scratch to stretch their muscles. So scratching is a really important natural behavior for cats. Next. So we want to make sure that we provide the cats with scratching posts. And this is an enrichment that's really important because, again, it stimulates this natural behavior, and it stimulates it on a place where it's appropriate rather than your furniture. So we want to discuss where to put the posts, but also about the different kinds of posts. Next. So we talk about location. If you look at the picture on the left, you see what maybe many of your couches look like. Cats like to scratch on things that are prominent in the room where they spend time. And, you know, people say to me, oh, he's scratching up my couch. And I say, do you have a scratching post? Yes, I do. Where is it? It's in the basement. Well, your cat doesn't want to scratch on the scratching post in the basement. You have to put the scratching post in a prominent area. And if your cat is scratching on the sofa or the chair, put the scratching post by the sofa or chair so that the cat is stimulated to do this natural behavior in an appropriate place, but close to where they would like to do it. Next. Now let's talk a little bit about the substrate of the scratching post. Next. The first substrate that most cats prefer is the sisal rope. The sisal is really great because it's just wonderful for their nails. They really like it. It comes in lots of different forms. So that's one. And just so as I go through the different kinds of scratching posts, I will also say that it's not a bad idea, and it's what I do, is have all of these different kinds of scratching posts because different cats will prefer different kinds. But the sisal rope scratching posts are one kind that I absolutely love, and so do the cats. Next. The corrugated cardboard scratching posts are also great. They're very inexpensive, and cats also love them. And you can see that, you know, a lot of them are horizontal. They just lay on the floor. Some of them are vertical. Some of them are slanted. But the corrugated cardboard ones are great for most cats. And again, you see this little picture of the little kittens using it. If you start them out early using their scratching posts, then they're going to use those scratching posts for the rest of their life. Next. Let's talk about carpeting. Now, a lot of times you'll go to a store and you'll buy a scratching post like this, and it'll have this kind of shag type carpeting on it. These are not the most preferred types of scratching posts, mainly because cats can get their claws stuck in the loops of the carpet. And if they get their claws stuck in the loop of the carpet and they panic a little bit, sometimes they don't go back to the carpet. Scratching posts. So sometimes cats like these, but I would say they're the least favorite kind of scratching post. Next. But we can get scratching posts with the Berber carpet. So the Berber carpet doesn't, you know, catch their nails, and so these actually work much better than the other shag type carpeting ones. Next. And then, of course, this is something that a lot of people don't think about, but actually you having a scratching post in the house that is made out of natural wood. So you can see a couple different forms here. Cats really like just scratching on natural wood. Cats out in the wild will scratch on a tree, and this is a great way to make a scratching post. Why buy one? Just go cut a log and bring it in and attach it to a base, and now your cat has a nice scratching post. It's going to make a little bit of a mess, just to let you know that as they scratch at the bark. But most cats really absolutely love these types of scratching posts. Next. And then let's do just a little word about orientation. So again, we can have the tall vertical ones. We can have the flat horizontal ones. We can also have slanted ones. There's all different kinds, and what I recommend you do is provide your cats with all three different orientations. Next. But I do have to say a word about the vertical ones. Cats like to stretch out when they scratch. And so the tall ones are really nice. And cats will use the tall ones more than they'll use the short ones. But you want to make sure that they're stable. So they have to have a nice wide base because you don't want them falling over when they scratch on them. So the vertical should be tall and stable. Next. All right, next thing that cats naturally do is rub on things. You'll see your cats rubbing on stuff all the time. They do this to mark their territory. They do it to mark us. They love rubbing on stuff. Next. So a form of enrichment to provide them with the ability to do this natural cat behavior is to provide them with some kind of rubbing brushes. And they make lots of different kinds now, some that you can put on the corners of your room, and then these other types that they can go under and rub against. They're great because the cat, gets a little brushing while they're doing what comes naturally for them. It's also a form of self-grooming, and so these rubbing brushes, again, stimulate a natural cat behavior. Next. And cats naturally like to drink from running water. Cats out in the wild rarely will, or if ever, will drink out of stagnant water. They know that that's not the safest thing to do. Cats prefer running water. And our cats in our home are no different. Cats oftentimes are only given a little bowl of water. Sometimes it's changed every day. Sometimes it's not. It's not the best thing for the cat because cats want to make sure their water is fresh. Next. So a form of enrichment that will provide them with this natural behavior of drinking from running water is to get them a cat fountain. There's lots of different kinds of cat fountains. I have several different kinds in my home for my cats. There's bubblers and there's drippers, and the idea is to provide them with a fountain where they can drink running water, bubbling water, and they feel that it's fresher and more interesting. So this is a great form of enrichment. Next. Sometimes, this is my old cat JJ. He's no longer with me, but JJ loved to drink out of the faucet, and so he would get up on the sink and scream his head off until I turned the faucet on. So again, it's a nice form of enrichment for certain cats. Next. Cats naturally like a salad from time to time. We know if they get outdoor access, they like to eat grass. Yes, it is true that they eat grass sometimes when their stomach's upset, and yes, sometimes it makes them vomit, but sometimes it doesn't. They just like to eat it just because it's fiber and it's yummy to them. Next. So providing them with some cat grass is another form of enrichment. So giving them an opportunity to eat grass, which is what they like to do. Next. Cats are natural hunters, and so we want to make sure that our enrichment also stimulates this ability in them because they're amazing hunters, they're very agile, and we can use enrichment to trigger this natural cat behavior. Next. So we want to stimulate aspects of the hunt. Next. So the aspects of the hunt are first stalking, then chasing, and then catching. And so when we play with our cats to stimulate aspects of the hunt, it's really important to understand first that cats have motion-sensitive vision, and so they are stimulated by something moving. But we want to make sure that the toy that we're playing moves in interesting ways to catch their motion-sensitive vision and catch their attention. So you make the item quiver, you make it suddenly disappear and then reappear, you make it fly through the air, you make it dash past the cat. It's the movement that actually stimulates the play, which is basically play in cats is practice for the hunt. Next. So we want to stimulate stalking, and so we can do that by just putting that toy out there and making it quiver a little bit. Next. Okay, and so here's a little video of my guy Toby, and first he sees his little mouse, he stalks it, and then he goes and gets it. And you will notice also that the item disappeared into his paper. Next. The next thing is the chase. Okay, stalk and then chase. So we want to make sure that we play with them in such a way that they're actually chasing the toy. Next. So here we have Toby, and hopefully these videos are coming through okay with you. They look a little slow motion to me on my end here, but you can tell that I'm using a bird toy, and it's just a feathery thing, and it's flying through the air, and so the Toby has to try to catch it. Next. And then the concept of making the toy disappear and then reappear is also important when we're playing with our kitty, because this is what stimulates the hunt. Now, little prey items are going to disappear from the cat and then reappear, and our cats are natural hunters. And so this kind of play enrichment is going to stimulate exactly the way they hunt out in the wild. Next. And then, of course, it's really, really important that we allow our cats to capture the item. All right, capture is a part of the hunt, and capturing their toy is really important. Next. And so we have a little video here of Toby going to catch his prey. Okay, so we want to make sure they catch it. Next. All right, just a little note about the laser pointers. Now, laser pointers are fine to play with your cat, with one caveat, okay? We want to make sure that we end the game with the laser by putting the laser on a toy. Next, just hit the next thing. Yeah, so if you're playing, you have a little mouse out somewhere, and you play with your laser and have your cat running all around, but you end the game by putting the beam of the light onto something your cat can actually capture. When the prey item just disappears, it's very confusing and very frustrating for the cat. And so we don't want to frustrate our cat by enriching their life. We want to enrich them. And because capturing their prey is so important, we got to make sure when we play with the laser light that they can actually catch something at the end. And this is a perfect way to do it. Doesn't matter what kind of toy it is. Just end the game with the beam of light on something they can pounce on and feel in their paws. Next. All right, the next kind of enrichment is sensory enrichment. Next. And so we want to consider all of their senses when we're doing enrichment for our cats. We want to consider their hearing and their smelling and their sight. Next. So we'll start with olfaction, so their sense of smell. And we know cats' sense of smell is very, very acute. Cats have 67 million scent receptors, and compared to humans, that is amazing. So their sense of smell is very, very important, way more important than it is to humans. Next. And we know that cats love to smell things. If you watch your cat is constantly smelling any little thing they find on the floor, or you come in from the house, from outside, they'll sniff your shoes. They use smell to investigate their environment. Next. So we know that if you bring a box into the house, first thing they do before they get in the box is smell the box. They want to know where this box has been, and they smell it. So they are going to investigate things that come into your home through their sense of smell. Next. So they smell us. They use their sense of smell to identify us, and so they do know their social partners by smell, whether that's a cat social partner or a dog social partner or a human social partner. They identify us by smell. Next. They literally smell the roses. All right, you bring in flowers into the house, and the kitty is going to smell them. It's all these scents are very interesting to your cat. Next. And of course, it's not just the roses. Anything, any kind of plant or flower you bring into the house, you watch your kitty. If they have access, they're going to take a sniff. Next. So a nice way to provide them with olfactory enrichment is to let them sniff stuff. Seems weird, but you just hold something up to a cat and they're going to sniff it. And that's just going to stimulate that sense of smell. It doesn't matter what it is. You know, cats just find sniffing interesting. And it's like, you know, we want to look at pretty things because vision is our #1 sense. Cats like to sniff stuff. Next. You can also hide treats around the house. If you hide treats around the house, they got to use their little sniffer to find them. So this is enrichment because you're triggering their olfactory sense, but you're also triggering what we call their seeking sense. And so they will use their nose to find hidden treats in the house. Next. You can also provide some novel scents in the house from time to time, a little drop of an extract or a little teeny pinch of some kind of a spice just sprinkled somewhere on the bed or on the carpet, also a great form of olfactory enrichment. Next. Catnip. I want to talk about catnip for a second. Catnip actually is mediated through the olfactory system. Only about 60% of cats have the receptors for catnip. But if your cat does have the receptors for catnip, catnip is a great form of enrichment for cats. Next. And you can grow some fresh catnip, which they'll eat fresh. They'll chew on the leaves, they'll roll around in it, or of course you can provide them with dry catnip. And you can grow your own and you can provide them fresh and dry it out and give them both. Next. And of course, all kinds of catnip-filled toys, a great enrichment for your cat if your cat has the receptor for catnip. Next. If you don't have any catnip toys, you can always marinate your plain old toys with catnip. Just put them in a bucket and throw some catnip, let them sit there for a couple days, and everything has catnip scent. Next. And of course, here's Buddy and his catnip pizza. And so there's lots of different ways you can stimulate your cat if they like catnip. Next. Then the next sense we're going to talk about is their auditory sense. And cats do have amazing hearing. They hear in a range that humans cannot hear. They hear up to 80 kilohertz. We only hear up to 20 kilohertz. Next. So they're constantly hearing things in the environment, but one form of enrichment that I use in the shelter a lot is playing bird songs. So you can get these bird song CDs and just play them for a few minutes every day, because what it does is it piques their interest, because bird songs are what we call a biologically significant sound to cats, meaning that they're genetically already hardwired to understand that it's a significant sound. And so it's a auditory enrichment that's really kind of fun. Next. And then their vision, again, they have motion-sensitive vision, so we can stimulate their vision in lots of different ways. Next. All right, we can hang mobiles, and mobiles in a room will just move haphazardly as the wind currents change, the heat comes on, the air conditioner comes on, so that's something interesting for them to look at. Next. You can blow bubbles for your kitty. Bubbles are a fun thing for them to look at, and of course it'll stimulate play because they're moving. They actually also make catnip bubbles, and so bubbles can be a great form of enrichment. Next. Giving them a view of the outdoors is a wonderful form of visual enrichment. Next. And of course, if you can attract some birds out there, that's going to then give them something interesting to look at. And so if you put bird feeders outside your door or feed the birds outside your window, that's a great enrichment for your cats. Next. You can play videos. They actually make what they call, video catnip, which are videos of different moving things, lots of birds and things like that. A lot of cats actually like to watch videos. Next. Oh, this was just a funny thing, okay? Well, maybe he's going to play some video games. Next. You can set up an aquarium if you feel like taking care of an aquarium. Cats love to sit and watch the fish. Again, this is visual enrichment because the moving fish attract the cat's interest. Next. The next sense and last sense we'll talk about is just their tactile sense. And so we know that cats love physical touch, so petting them is actually a form of enrichment. Next. Brushing them too, okay, but they like to be brushed. It stimulates lots of good feelings, and so tactile stimulation is another sense we want to tap into. Next. Next, we're going to talk about behavioral enrichment. And I see that I'm running really late, so I'm going to try to speed through this stuff because I don't want to keep you too long. So next. So we want to stimulate play, and as I talked about before, we want to make sure we stimulate play the way I talked about with the movement of the toy and the disappearance of the toy and letting them catch the toy. Next. But variety is really the most important thing. We want to make sure we have a huge variety of toys for your cat. Next. And we know that we don't have to spend any money to entertain a cat because really anything can be a cat toy. As long as it moves along the floor, they can bat it around, it becomes a cat toy. Next. You can make homemade toys. Again, you don't have to buy anything, pipe cleaners. You can do a little sewing. It doesn't matter what you make it out of. Cats love just things they can bat around and pick up in their mouth and carry around. Next. Even something as simple as newspaper, crumpled up newspaper. This is Buddy playing in his newspaper. Next. Floating toys, this is a great little enrichment. Just fill the sink and put a couple of little ping pong balls in it, and they'll bat them around and watch them move in the water. Nice, cheap form of enrichment. Next. Sometimes they make their own form of enrichment because you think your ice water is for you, but nope, it's for the cat. Next. There's lots of different toys on the market, toys that have moving parts that stimulate the cat, so you can certainly buy toys like this. Next. But you can also, of course, oh, forgot about this one. Yeah. So, you know, everybody's addicted to their iPhone and their iPad, and so they actually make programs for the cat to actually play on. Next. And then feeder balls. So rather than feeding your kitty in a bowl, putting their food in a feeder ball is a great form of enrichment so that they have to knock it around and their little kibbles come out a little bit at a time. Great form of feeding enrichment. Next. There's all different kinds of puzzle feeders on the market that you can buy that challenge your kitty. You put the kibble in there and they have to figure out how to work the puzzle feeder in order to get their meal. Next. But you don't have to buy anything because kitties don't care how much money you spend on them. Anything that lays around the house, like an egg carton, you can put little kibbles in each little hole. That becomes a puzzle feeder for your kitty. Next. But anything, a soda bottle, yogurt containers, Tupperware, it doesn't matter what it is. Just, you know, figure it out. Just make something fun. Make it a challenge for your kitty to eat. That's what enrichment is all about. Next. Paper tubes, we all have them. Toilet paper tubes, paper towel tubes. You can make all kinds of fun stuff with tubes. So enrichment doesn't have to cost you any money. Next. And the last subject, which I'm going to race through, I feel I have 7 minutes to talk about training. And so you might be saying cats can be trained. Most people don't think you can train a cat. Next. But of course, you can train a cat. You can actually train a cat to do anything that you train a dog to do. They're very, very trainable animals. They're very smart. They're very agile. They want to learn. And so training your cat is a wonderful form of enrichment, and it's really cool. Next. So I use clicker training for cats, and clicker training is where we use a marker signal that tells the cat when they've earned a reward. Click next. Right? So clicker training, the first thing we do is what we call Pavlovian conditioning. And Pavlov, of course, is the scientist that learned that animals learn through association. And so we use Pavlovian conditioning to teach the kitty that when they hear the click, they get a treat. Once they know that, then the click is used to mark the behavior that earns the reward. And so clicker training is based in science. It's really fun. It's what we use in the zoo field. It's what they use to train the marine mammals. And if you ever notice the marine mammal trainers have a whistle in their mouth, it's basically the same idea. Next. And with clicker training, you can teach cats all kinds of fun stuff. I like to start with target training. Target training is where they just touch their nose or their paw onto something. These top two pictures show cat touching a target stick. Next. And if this video works, This is Toby learning how to, or doing his touch, just touching a target. And we're just using a pencil. And then we click. And I don't know if the sound came through on your end, but the idea is when he touches his nose to the pencil, you click the clicker says, that's exactly what I want, and then you deliver the treat. Next. You can teach your cat to do all kinds of fun tricks. The high five trick is a great trick to teach a cat using a clicker. Next. You can teach them all kinds of tricks. I mean, a lot of people really go overboard with teaching their cat all kinds of circus tricks to, to jump through hoops and walk a tightrope and all kinds of really fun stuff. And, cats really love to be trained. Next. And some people even do kitty agility with their cat. If you know what agility is, it's that sport where dogs jump over things and go through tunnels. Well, there's lots of great kitty agility videos online if you go to YouTube. And teaching your kitty agility is really great for them. It's mental stimulation, physical stimulation, and boy, is it fun. Next. There's lots of different books and websites to teach you, help you with your clicker training for cats. And so you can go to clickertraining.com, which is a wonderful website to learn more about clicker training, and there's lots of books available about clicker training your cat. I urge you to learn a little bit more about this great technique. It's very simple, it's very fun, and it's very, very enriching. Next. And the last thing I'll say in the last 3 slides, not everybody takes their cat for cat drives, but sometimes cats actually like going for experiences. So you can take your kitty in the car. Next. You can take your kitty backpacking. Next. You can even take your kitty surfing. So lots of people do really amazing things with their kitty, and maybe you're not going to go this far with your kitty, but all of the things I talked about in this webinar, I hope that you try some of this with your cat because it's really very fun and important. Next. So enrichment is going to improve your cat's life. Next. And it is so much fun. It's so much fun for you and your cat. So just do it. Take some of these suggestions I gave you today and try them out and have a great time and enrich the lives of your cat. Next. And that's it, and it looks like we have a couple minutes for questions. I want to thank you guys for your attention. I hope you learned a lot and had fun, and I hope you try some of this stuff with your kitty.
All right, thank you so much, Kelly. I know that I've learned a few things, and that I have a couple things I already want to run home and try with my cats. But I want to remind everyone we do have a couple minutes for questions. If you have questions that are specific to your cat's behavior, again, I encourage you to register for the next webinar in this series, which will focus on the common behavior problems in cats. And so if you have behavior-specific questions, I'm sorry we're not going to be able to answer those on air today, but I hope you will join us again next month. So moving into our first question, this came in when you were talking about outdoor enrichment for cats. Do you have any recommendations for someone who's living in an apartment complex to help them give that outdoor experience to their cat?
Well, there's a couple things. You can purchase these kind of extensions off your window. They're like little cages that you can hook up to your window, so you can open the window and have your cat kind of sitting out on a shelf that has, it's like a little cage outside the window. So that's a nice one. Of course, you can also just have a window seat in the window. But when you live in an apartment, probably the best thing to do is desensitize the cat to wearing a harness and taking your kitty out on a walk. Going to a safe place. We want to make sure it's not a place where, dogs are going to run over and say, hey, what's this kitty doing out here? But taking them out to that sort of thing, it would probably be a great option.
Those are some great tips. So moving right along, can you offer any words of advice for people who are in multi-cat situations? I mean, is it possible to give too much attention to one cat, or how do you approach enrichment when there's more than one cat to think about?
Well, first of all, when you have multiple cats, enrichment is really, really important, especially the environmental enrichment that I talked about, making sure there's lots of different hiding places and travel routes and perches, because when you have multiple cats, sometimes you run into problems because of territory, and you'll notice that your cats kind of set up their own territory. But in terms of all the other stuff, it's great, because when you stimulate your cats mentally and physically, then they're going to be less annoying to each other. And so you can play with one for 5 minutes. The other one is going to come over and say, hey, where's my turn? You can feed all your cats in feeder balls, but in different rooms. You can absolutely provide enrichment for a multiple cat household. I have 5 kitties in my house. They all get enrichment. And, you know, the house is set up, it's basically for the cats, not for me. But, you know, it's really super important to try all this stuff when you have multiple cats in the house. And of course, if you have a single cat, it's way important too, because that cat is not having any social outlets except for those with you.
All right, and so I think we have time for just one more question, and I just again want to thank you, Kelly, for all of your excellent expert advice. So this question has come in a couple of times, and people feel a little silly even asking, but I think there's some misinformation out there. Is there such a thing as too much catnip?
No, not that I know of. I mean, you know, the thing is about catnip is, so again, 60% of cats are stimulated by catnip. They have the receptors. It's a genetic thing. Of that 60%, there are a certain percentage, I'm going to just throw it out there, I don't think it's been studied, but let's say 10% of cats get really overstimulated by catnip. And that overstimulation can lead them to attacking you if you come too close, or try to pet them when they're, you know, in their catnip high, or if there's multiple cats in the household, it could cause some trouble. But for the most part, you can really give your cat catnip, little pinch of catnip on a daily basis. It wouldn't be a big deal. As far as I know, there's no such thing as overdosing your cat on catnip.
All right, well, thank you so much, and I want to thank everyone out there today. I know that we are a little limited on our question time, so if you do have questions, Alley Cat Allies is always here for you as a resource. You can see our website there at the bottom of your screen. It's just alleycat.org. And if you have specific questions, you can always write to us at info@alleycat.org, and we will do our best to help you. Again, I want to remind everyone that this webinar is being recorded, so you will get a link to the recorded session in a follow-up email. And I want to thank you all for joining us today, and I hope that everyone has learned something new. And so thanks again, Kelly. And I look forward to working with you again next month.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for your attention, and have fun.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye-bye.